right 2 lanes to keep right.
Hey friends, it's Tuesday, September 7, 2021. I hope you had a great Labor Day if you're in the States, and ready to jump into a great coaching conversation today. My name is Peter, and welcome back or welcome aboard to the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation on the internet. And that's just because I'm convinced that our future deserves our focus today. We're talking about disrupting yourself for the future. What does that mean? What does it look like? We're going to go into routines today, and super excited and glad that you guys are on. But I want to welcome you back to the Future Frontier, where we are learning how to focus practically on what's possible, what's important, and then putting in the work day by day to lead ourselves there tactically. It's easier said than done. In fact, I have a thesis that most people, they really don't know how to lead others into a better future. And it's not their fault. It's just that they start with the wrong thing. They start with the public side of leadership and not the personal side of leadership. And there's actually something very foundational that goes unnoticed. It's called self-leadership. It's the ability to lead yourself well. When no one's around, when no one's looking, you could call it character. You could call it integrity. You could call it a lifestyle of intentionality. I'm calling it a lifestyle of preparation because I think we need to be putting in the necessary yet unnoticed preparation so that way when we show up ready. See, I'm convinced I don't want to just, rise to the occasion. I want to fall back on my preparation. I want to know that I put the time in while I had it to show up ready. And that's why we're going on this daily coaching journey. Just a few thoughts here or there as we go. The reason I go daily is because, number one, I need this conversation. I need to keep myself in this frame of mind. But also, I've been doing this for a few years now, leading myself, and you just need some motivation. You just need someone to keep you company. And I'm not trying to lecture you. I'm not trying to tell you stuff you don't already know. I just hope that this is fuel for your focus. And just by having something in the background, you could literally just put me on the side and kind of tune me out and keep doing whatever you know you need to be doing, whether that's doing housework or working out or walking or whatever. Just go organize your car, go organize your workspace, and let's have a conversation, and let's be talking about things that can help us level up and lead others well. And so the big idea here is self-leadership is a call to action, and we have to learn these two life skills. How do we actually focus practically on the future? And then how do we lead ourselves day by day in a way that's going to end up there with others? And so if this resonates with you, I want to invite you to join the Future Friends. We have an email community, and I send out an email each week bundled up with all this content so that way you can keep track of it. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about our free fail-proof planning guide so you can check it out. But let's get into this conversation. Here's a quote from Elon Musk, that guy who's building rockets. No big deal. He said, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. What causes us to go against the grain, to embrace challenge, difficulty, push back against that procrastination? I think it's when you have a value, a focus that is worth investing in. And so I want to sympathize with you first and say that, habits are they're kind of sticky, tricky. And there's a quote that says, at first habits are so light, and then they become so heavy. They're like a chain. You do habits over and over, and then they become too heavy to break over time. So you don't even realize it. First, you make your habits, and then your habits make you. And so when we're getting into these routines, we can basically settle in a good place in our life, wherever we think we're doing good. And if we don't stay humble, and if we don't keep growing, and we don't keep learning, we can kind of plateau in one setting or season of our life. And I think that we're called to thrive in every season of life. I don't think you have to be defined by just one chapter of your story. I think that your story can get better and better. And so we want to embrace change and even lead change. And so how do we do it? I think there are 3 easy starting points to disrupt yourself: disrupting your routines, disrupting your rhythms, and then disrupting your relationships, or at least your expectation of those relationships. But it can be challenging to, resist this, to break bad habits, to change a narrative, or to reimagine what's possible. But it is so mission critical for what you're capable of. I want to share a example. If you've been flying internationally, you will relate. I've had the privilege of being able to take some international trips, and jet lag is real, for real. When I first went, I didn't think much of it, and I was pretty much doing the same thing. Actually, I take that back. I think I was actually staying up a little later than my normal sleep schedule to watch all the free movies on the airplane or eat the food. I was just too excited about going on the trip. And then you get to your destination, and you're not just in a new place, you're in a new time zone. You literally changed time zones. And so now your body clock is a little weird, and it hits you. And because I wasn't willing to make the change sooner than later, I had to take the consequences, take the hit, and I had to catch up. And I think I was so exhausted, probably the first 2 days. And I missed out on that time. I could have been enjoying the destination. And that's kind of the way it is with disrupting yourself. It's about identifying with where you're going. It doesn't make sense at first to, sleep at a different schedule, to drink a lot of water, to do X, Y, and Z. But when you're motivated by where you're going, not where you are or where you've been, then you have a plan, right? You have an idea. You're willing to disrupt what feels normal in order to show up ready. And so that's what I want to encourage you with is don't let your past determine your future, but keep adding value to your futurability. That just means that you're thinking about what's important, you're thinking about what's possible, and you're going for it. So let me ask you, are you adding value to your futurability, or are you just kind of getting static and then stagnant in different areas of your life? See, we assume that things are good, that things will never change, but things are always changing. And that's not a bad thing. That's an invitation for us to mature, to grow, to give. But the enemy of futurability is familiarity. And so that's the disruption. That's what we need to lead. We have to lead the change by realizing that if we get familiar with our routines, our rhythms, or even our relationships, we could end up losing them. We don't want to. We want to invest value in the long game. We want to have fruit that remains. So don't look to your past to determine your future. Instead, be motivated by a hopeful expectation of what's really important. And then, based on that, what's possible, and go for it. Don't let anything slow you down, but go for it. So we have to learn, how do we fight self-disillusion with self-disruption? What do I mean? Well, if you haven't noticed, humans are capable of lying to themselves. And it's when we don't give an honest view of ourselves. We can hype ourselves up more. We can have an inflated ego. We can talk about ourselves in a way that is kind of true, but really not. And other people, they may not really process what you're saying. They may not even care too much about what you're saying, but you're listening to that all the time. And you don't want to give yourself a skewed view. And so what can happen is we can start talking about our routines in these generalizations. We can talk about our routines in these exaggerations. We can say things like, yeah, I always wake up early, when we don't. Now, there's no shame. I'm not putting shade on anybody, but you have to really keep track of your progress. And if you're just kind of swallowing these generalizations, then you're justifying a a downward spiral that you may or may not be paying attention to. So make sure that your routines are actually producing the results that you're seeing in your head. Let me say that again. Make sure that your routines are actually producing the results that you're seeing in your head. You know, I'm inspired by Jesus. There's no secret to that. And I love the way he tells a story about a gardener who goes to a tree and he's looking for fruit. He's looking for results, and he's willing to cut it down. And so he's got this gardener with him. He says, no, don't cut it down. Give me some time. I'll work on it. I'll, fertilize it or whatever, and we'll see the results. I think that's amazing that, the emphasis of the story is that there are times where it's very good to be outcome based, to be objective, to look for results. And sometimes we can just get into a routine, which becomes a rut, and we kind of forget why we started that routine in the first place. Or some of our routines are haphazard, and they're just kind of the byproduct of an extended weekend or a season of life where we weren't really gripping the steering wheel with intentionality. And so I really want you to be very aware of some of the things that might be feeling most natural to you, to really lean forward with a beginner's mind, with fresh eyes. If you go into your house day after day after day after day, you can get familiar to what's around there. At first, maybe there's some, kind of out of place. You notice it for a few days, and then it just kind of blends in to your memory bank. But whenever you go to a new house, you can see things with fresh eyes again. Or whenever someone visits your house, they see that thing all over again. We have to have these fresh eyes. We have to kind of jolt our routines and say, am I really getting the results that my routines are promising? So we have to prove the futurability of our results, prove the futurability of our routines. You say, what does that mean? Well, it means that we might have forgotten why we started, our schedules or our choices, our rituals in the first place. So we have to see, will our reasons age well? The reasons that we came up with that schedule, and you're simply asking, why do I do that? Why do I do my work in that order? Why do I start my day that way? Why do I react when I get questioned? I kind of felt like maybe I was getting defensive and I probably shouldn't have. Why did I do that? And simply asking the why question 1, 2, or 3 times in a row can help you get, deeper down to the root issues of your routine. And then ask this question, will your results show up in time? Because I'm all for the process. I know there's a lot of people, they're talking about marry the process right now and enjoy the journey. And I'm all for that. But do you still have a destination? Do you still have purpose and intentionality? I mean, if it doesn't matter that you have any results at all, then it doesn't matter what process you pick. I mean, the process still has a purpose, and it will take time. Obviously, you have a long game, but you want to make sure that you are working and empowering your process to actually see progress and results. I'm going to probably do a whole conversation on one of the dangers that we as pioneers can find in the future frontier. And one of the dangers that we have to be on the lookout for are bears, grizzly bears, not real ones, but the grizzly bear minimums. There are grizzly bear minimums that are lurking everywhere in the future frontier. And if we're not careful, our routines will get overtaken by a bare minimum. And we're doing just enough, and that becomes our routine instead of evaluating the futurability, evaluating the direction that routine is taking us and doing something about it. So I want to get into 5 routines, specific routines that I think you need to evaluate, that you need to assess, that you need to have fun working on again and again. The first one is, as you can see, the morning routine. I think your make or break moment in the day is the morning. That's why I'm convinced that it is good, it is valuable when I can master the morning. Like, that's my goal. That's my win. That's my definition for success. Every morning, I want to master the morning. I want to experience personal mastery. And for me, that starts with spending time with my master, right? The Lord. And so that's just what I do in my alone zone. That's me, working on me and letting that space make room for amazing moments, amazing insights, clarity to show up. But your routine can kind of rot from the inside out, and it can turn into a rut because your routine was never meant to be on autopilot. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But really go back to the original direction. What would a great morning look like? What is a great morning for this season of your life? Not some pie in the sky thing, but like realistically, what would it take to have a great day? What would it take to have a great day? And then work at it, work on it. You might have to do some pre-work. You might have to do some meal prepping. You might have to prep the coffee or, get some breakfast snacks ready to go. You might have to reset to ready the night before. You might have to lay out your clothes or schedule some emails or whatever. I don't know what that looks like, but it's worth it. It's worth the work to have a great morning. Now, I just had the question asked last weekend, do you wake up early every day, all 7 days? The answer is no. my wife and I, we basically have a morning routine for the weekdays, and we have a morning routine for the weekends. And every once in a while, we'll throw in a Tuesday snooze day, which I don't even know where that came from, but it's just a fun thing that we can do. But go back and evaluate your morning routine and reconnect with the inspiration and the joy that set that plan up in the first place. Morning routine. Second one is, go figure, your evening routine. These are like the bookends of your day. And, I'm going to have to improvise in the day because I'm interacting with other people, and people are generally not predictable. So what are the things I can control? I can control my attitude. I can control the way I respond to other people. I can control some of my organizational systems. I'm just kind of spitballing some ideas here. But my alone time in the morning and then the way I finish my day, those are in bounds. Those are things I can take ownership over. Now, in my experience, the evening routine is tougher than the morning routine. I know. Waking up early can be very difficult. If you're a morning person, you can gloat in the chat right now. If you're not a morning person, go ahead and just share that and get some sympathy right now, because I understand the struggle of waking up in the morning. Having said that, I still think the evening routine is tougher to land. The evening routine requires intentionality, practice, repetition, precision. The evening routine is going to take some scaffolding, some coaching on your part, because you're going to have to, Joshua, not a morning person. I agree. I understand that. The evening routine, though, is still harder to me because we got this thing, right? This blue light is soaking us and we're not resting. We're not unplugging. We can try the digital sunset, which is really cool. But I mean, come on, we want to wind down, and we're going to be scrolling. We're going to be watching. We're going to be doing something. And so we have to take ownership, have self-control, exert some discipline. And the easiest way is don't say no, but say yes to something better. And get yourself in a rhythm, get yourself in a routine that you feel like you can nail, that you feel like you can excel in. So like for the evening routine, just identify the checklist and the checkpoints. What do I mean by that? Checklist is, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 things that would help you wind down, that would help you rest, that would help you feel like, the day is actually done and you can just be present. What are some things that you enjoy, that you look forward to? And if it is watching a little media at the end of the day, that's cool. But what are you going to do after that? And how are you going to transition easily into the next thing? And then the checkpoint is the time, right? Your curfew. Okay, so then you can attach small checklists or action steps with each of these checkpoints. It'd be no different than saying I have to get to that that mountain ridge before the sun goes down. There's something time sensitive now and urgent about it. I think for me, the evening routine, it really has a lot to do with setting myself up for success the next day. I enjoy journaling, and I also just generally just enjoy hanging out either with my wife or company. Like we're having so much fun. We're doing Rosh Hashanah with friends, and we didn't plan on it, but we're just going to be having company pretty much every day this week. So those are little things that you can drop in to make your evening routine intentional. Now, the next thing I really want you to focus on, I mean, front and center, have a plan and be honest, because saying that you have a routine is not the same as seeing the results of that routine, meaning you're becoming more confident in that routine. You're becoming more competent with that routine. You're using less and less draining willpower, and you're kind of building your own personal momentum because you're getting the precision and the repetition down. And what generally happens is we either quit our routines or we just flat out forget our routines. And that's why I think both can be resolved with some sort of writing, some sort of putting it on paper, putting it in front of you, and using it as a way to celebrate or evaluate how you're doing. It's not to beat you up, it's to build you up. And I think when you give yourself that ownership, then you can do something about it. So you're working out, right? Working out is good. It's valuable. It's helpful. There's a lot of benefits to it. I say it a lot, but I don't want to be a burden. I want to be a strength, not just physical, but just as a friend, as a husband, as a leader. And so I have to lead myself. There are days I don't feel like it, but I got to push myself. I have to, like recently, I just had this weird crick in my back. And so I wasn't able to do the workout the way I normally do it. So I have to disrupt myself, because if I don't make a change, I'm going to let 2 days become 10 days, and 10 days become 2 months, and 2 months become 10 months. And you get the idea. So when do you actually kind of interrupt the direction that a routine is going or not going? Because it's designed to just keep going. So we can be intentional and we can disrupt that routine. We can do small tweaks to get to tall peaks, and we can see a jump. We can see some sort of improvement, even if it's incremental. We can see an incremental improvement, and then that helps us. It kind of just puts fresh momentum into it. All right, so your workouts, get intentional about it. Now, I've talked about this a little bit. I'm not a workout expert, but I love making time to do some physical training. I do a lot of work at a computer, a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings. I do ministry, so I'm interacting with people a lot, but I'm not outside really sweating or pushing it too much. So this is one of my hobbies now. This is something that helps me. It helps my health. It's one of the strategies I use to, outsmart stress. And, I think if you're not intentional about this, then you're really leaving too much to chance. And so don't do that to yourself, but make those investments in your future. Identify with where you want to be, not just where you've been. But I've found personally, after that crick in my back, that stretching is really important. And so doing a pre-workout, doing some sort of warm-up, and just making that time. Now, if you're not normally into that, or if you're just generally intimidated by the whole idea, being alone wouldn't really help, because you're going to go easy on yourself. Being with other people wouldn't help, because you're always going to get self-conscious. So you're kind of starting out at a lose-lose situation, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you can just face it for what it is, take that first step and just get going, and then over time you will get better. But don't wait, don't hesitate, definitely don't procrastinate. Get started today. Do something. Even if you just say, I am making time in my day for something to happen. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm going to have time and I'm going to have space. And it's kind of just like clearing out the clutter so that way something new can surface, something new can emerge out of that time. So be intentional about your morning routine. Be intentional about your evening routine. Be intentional about your workouts. Here's another one. Be intentional about your workflows. A lot of times we're working on projects, but we're not working on the processes. What do I mean by the projects versus the process? The project is what needs to get done. The process is how you're going to do it. And when it comes to routines in this way, these routines involve other people. So we're going to have to use a little bit more diplomacy. We're going to have to observe what's going on. We're observing results, but we're also observing relationships. And so it's very good to have a little bit of distance so you can step back, you can zoom out, and you can say, how's it going? Like for real, how's work really going? Am I being effective? Am I being efficient? Are there one or two quick wins that I could try to build some sort of trust or credibility with others on my team so that way we can level up even more after that together? And so your workflows include your organization systems. It includes your meetings. It includes the way you're going to take on due dates and reporting. And so just thinking about how you're getting projects done, particularly the ones that you're doing all the time. I mean, if you're going to be doing those projects over and over and over again, don't you want them to be fun? Don't you want them to be efficient? Don't you want them to, scale? Sure. So don't work harder, right? Think smarter. All right. The last thing I want you to evaluate is your weekly planning. Now, this should be a routine. You should have a routine of showing up and just looking ahead. I'm not saying you have to have some detailed itinerary. I'm just saying, have you gotten your head up at least once a week to look down the calendar and say, what do I already know about? What should I be looking out for? How can I kind of better coordinate things? Otherwise, I'm going to be reacting doing this number instead of maybe doing something like that. So weekly planning is a routine. And what I have found in my own experience is I know I need to do it. And maybe I kind of have an idea of how it's supposed to go, but I'm just kind of shoehorning this thing in and I'm not really feeling it. And so then I kind of drop the bar and I drop my standard and I don't really do it full out like I'm supposed to. And then I feel bad because I'm kind of kicking hurdles now for the rest of the week. And then I get to that again. And I said, well, I basically survived without my weekly planning session last week. I think I could improvise again this week. That was fun, right? And then you basically, I don't know how long it is for you. At first it was like, I would improvise. I would improvise for like a few weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks before I really admitted to myself, I think I do a little bit better when I am looking up, when I'm taking responsibility, taking ownership, getting creative. I'm getting in a, problem solving mode. I think I like that better. And I actually get some free time and I feel a little bit rested. And so I exert a little bit more of myself. I put a little bit more effort into a weekly planning session. And man, that week just feels awesome. And then I'm scratching my head like, what happened? Where did it go? What was so good? And I have to admit, I put in the preparation. I did the pre-work. And so you do that a few times, you build credibility for yourself, and you say, I think I need to do this more often. And whatever it is, whether it's the morning routine or the evening routine or the working out or the weekly planning or the workflows, you're going to have to get that kind of data for yourself. You're going to have to get that kind of momentum for yourself. And you may not be hitting on all these areas right now. Maybe you've had some success in mornings, but not in the evenings. Maybe you've had some success with working out, but not with your workflows, or vice versa. But I want you to imagine if you could be a little more involved, a little more proactive, a little less reactive in each of these areas until you're actually kind of synergizing them, and then you're unstoppable. Now, I have had amazing weeks and even months where I felt like I was lining all of these areas up. And these are just a few kind of what I would consider mission critical routines that are showing up on more of a daily, weekly basis. The other stuff, not so often. Those would be more rhythms, a little broader in scope. We're going to talk about those things tomorrow. But man, these routines have clear action steps that you can practice, that you can get better at over time. You can grow in your confidence, grow in your competence. And I just say, like, imagine what's possible if you can level up each of these routines to your own liking. Now, remember, I talked about self-deception versus self-disruption. Well, self-deception would say, I don't really need to do all that. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really bother me that much. Nobody really notices anyways. But self-disruption says, no, I want to go the distance. I want to make a difference. Let me do what I can, and let's see what happens. And so you take that step. You're not externally motivated by pain or problems, but you're internally motivated by promises and by possibility. So go for it. A reliable way to disrupt your routines is to simply reimagine your limits. Just disrupt your routines by reimagining what you can do. Like, lift your eyes a little bit higher. Set your sights a little bit higher. Ask yourself, what if I could do the same work in that one workflow in half the time? I know that I've been doing the same thing the same way for a while, but could I do it a little bit better? Could I make it a little bit cleaner? Could it be a little more presentable? Like, how would I express excellence in that area? What if I could batch multiple days of work into one focused session? What if I could be not just more effective, but more efficient? What if I could increase revenue? What if I could save more time? What if I could be more present with the people that I care about, that are entrusted into my care? See, asking these possibility-based questions can inspire us and even influence the way we approach these routines. Now, routines can actually become ruts when we use them for the wrong reasons. If you're doing routines, they don't have to always turn into ruts. They really don't. You can have a enjoyable self-leadership approach that doesn't lead to burnout, overwhelm, ruts, whatever you want to say. And that's because routines are not meant to help you do the same thing over and over for a long time. Instead, routines are meant to put you on a path to keep changing sustainably. I'm going to say that one more time. Routines are meant to put us on a path to keep changing sustainably. So instead of thinking of routines just as a straight line, think of it as a path that gets you somewhere you couldn't be right now. But if you are willing to keep going on that journey, if you're willing to keep taking action steps in that direction, eventually you're going to be able to have the carrying capacity. You're going to have the confidence, the competence that you need in order to level up. So at first, man, I really can't walk, the 5 miles. I'm not walking 5 miles right now, by the way. But let's say, you want to walk for the 5 miles. You can't do that at first. But if you will start a routine, you'll get to the point where you can make an incremental improvement. And then a good routine begins to look like stairs that go up. So you hold steady for a while. That's the routine. And then you have these intentional bursts of disruption where you level up, where you push yourself, where you imagine or reimagine what's possible. And you make a little jump, and then you hold that for a while. And you say, okay, I think I can level up again. Boom. And then you hit that again. And eventually you are going higher, but you're taking steps to get there. The opposite is a rut. The opposite is where you make excuses and then you drop the bar a little bit, and then you justify it, and then you drop the bar a little bit, and you do that again and again, and now you're going down. So routines will either run off of your familiarity or your futurability. That may or may not stick, but it means a lot to me. Routines will either run off of familiarity. Oh, yeah, I got that. It's all good. Nobody cares. Nobody notices. It's not that big of a deal. Or it will run off of futurability. Hey, what's important? What's possible? I'm growing. I'm changing. When you identify with your future more than your past, you can disrupt your life patterns that would limit your futurability. And so that's my encouragement to you. My encouragement is to simply evaluate what's going on and celebrate the signs of growth and progress, and celebrate the results. Find something to celebrate to keep you going. Now, you may say, that's cool. I got a game plan. I'm going to double down on morning routines, evening routines. I'm going to double down on my weekly planning, workouts, my workflows. But what's the difference between a routine and a rhythm? Well, that's what tomorrow is all about. We're going to be explaining that, zooming out, and learning how to disrupt ourselves in seasons of life. So that way we are still thriving no matter what season we're in. All right. This has been a good run. I really appreciate you going on this extended coaching journey. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and share it with other people. You can subscribe and join the email community for future friends. And there is a gift waiting on you right now. It'll get you into the email community. It's called the Fail-Proof Planning Guide, and it'll walk you through step by step with a proven planning process. It's not a one and done system like, you just print out the paper and then use it. Instead, it's a series of clarifying questions and strategies that will help you actually sit down and focus when you have your next planning session. And my wife's here, Joy, and I put it together. I'm super grateful for the way it turned out. I'm very proud of it because it's been helping me and a lot of other people. And I want you to get going so you can get better as well. That is it. I want to remind you, you're going places. You got an awesome future ahead of you. But because it is so big, don't think that it's just going to happen automatically. Instead, make today count. Lead yourself with intentionality and integrity. And as always, prepare to go there. I'll see you tomorrow.
to keep running.